Hello, and welcome to Intentional Excellence, the podcast where we dive into the power of intentionality, resilience, and growth. I'm your host, Candice Ruggiero. I'm a keynote speaker, podcast, and live show host. My show is called Candice Ruggiero Love Speaks. I'm an aspiring author, educator, and entrepreneur. This episode is part of our special series, The Lost Child Finding Yourself Beyond the Past. Here we will explore personal stories of transformation, healing, and self discovery. You see, many of us carry deep wounds from childhood, experiences that shape how we see ourselves in the world. But the past doesn't have to define us. We have the power to reclaim our identity and rewrite our story. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with an incredible guest, Mhairi Blyth. And let me introduce her to you. Marie was born in Kirkcaldy, Fife, but spent much of her childhood in the Middle East. She started writing poems at 10 as a form of escapism during a traumatic time in boarding school and began writing short stories in her mid 30s. After years of moving between England and Scotland, she has settled back in Fife with her husband, daughter, grandson, parents, three dogs, and two cats. She splits her time between looking after her family and writing. And in her free time, she enjoys reading, cross stitch, and the occasional nap. Marie, welcome to Intentional Excellence. I'm so grateful to have you here
Thank
today.
you, Candice. Thank you.
I'm in Florida. I like sharing with my viewers where you and I, like myself, and where my audience my guest comes from. I'm in Florida in America. You want to share more about where are you from, Mary?
I
Marie.
am in a little place called Peat Inn, which is near Kirkcaldy in Fife, Scotland. So we're maybe about an hour away from Edinburgh.
Okay. All right. I would love to visit your country one of these days.
It's beautiful. It is beautiful,
Oh,
but very
that is.
cold.
Have you been to America? Have you visited our country?
A couple of times I went to Disneyland, Florida,
All right.
and I've been to New York. So,
Okay. Well, I'm what, an hour away from Disneyland. I'm in Tampa. I don't know if you've
oh
heard a lot
yeah,
of
yeah.
beaches. And I've lived in New York as well. So have you been to the city? Have you seen the Statue of Liberty?
Seen the statue, went to
Yes.
Ground Zero before it was rebuilt, went down Wall Street, Times
Nice.
Square,
Isn't it
Macy's.
amazing just being there? I miss New York.
Yeah,
I've
it's
only been
so
here
nice
3 years,
there.
but I'm gonna be a New Yorker at heart forever.
Definitely.
Would love to visit your country one of these days. All
You'll have
right,
to wrap
Marie.
it
Marie,
warm.
yeah, I would love that. What's the season now where you're at?
Winter,
Oh, it's
definitely
still winter.
winter.
Does it snow where you are?
We've had snow,
Okay.
yep. It's not snowing just now. It's bright sunshine, but it's
Nice.
only about 5 degrees Celsius.
Whoa. All right. That's good. That's good then. Marie, did I forget to you want to add anything about yourself that you want the viewers to know? You want to add anything?
Yeah, well, I mean, I look after my parents. That's pretty much my full-time job. I've looked after my dad for nearly 20 years. My grandson's 3, he's nearly 4, so
Oh.
he's very cheeky.
Oh, how cute.
Yeah.
Does your grandson live with you as well?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Best feeling ever. Just simply having your family close knit and close tight with you.
Definitely.
Because I'm in America, but I'm the only one here. Most of my family are in the Philippines, so it's sad not having
Oh,
a
yeah,
family with you.
definitely.
So
Yeah.
right, and I have
Yeah,
two
I think
children,
so.
three. One is now in Vegas, and two with me. Husband passed away 2023, so I long for family. I really do
Yeah.
long for family, and I'm happy for you that you have them with you. All right, Marie, are you good? Can we
I'm
start?
good.
Yeah, I
I'm
can't wait. I can't wait. I already know that this is going to be a fantastic conversation.
good.
All right, let's start. Marie, early experiences can shape our sense of identity in profound ways. Can you share a pivotal moment from your past that made you feel like a lost child? And perhaps share how did it influence the way you saw yourself?
I think when I was younger, probably about the age of 5,
Mm-hmm.
we had already had a period living abroad in Saudi Arabia as a whole family. So my mum, my dad, my two sisters, and myself. And we moved back to Scotland, and then my dad went away back to Saudi Arabia on his own. And this
Was he
was
a Saudi Arabian resident, or
no,
he did what for work? Okay, all right,
he's Scottish, so he was a nurse.
okay,
So he went across to Saudi
oh,
Arabia
okay,
for
all right, for
nursing.
work. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And at that point, I felt that he'd left me.
Okay,
Because he left the family. He was away for
right.
like 18 weeks
Years.
at a time, and
Okay,
it was just as the Gulf War in Saudi
right,
Arabia was breaking out. So it was quite a worrying time.
right.
And we would only see him for a couple of weeks at a time when he came back on leave. Um, so Mum and I
How old were you
eventually,
then? You were
I
how old were
was
you? Did you
5.
5? You said 5, right? Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry. I
So
did-
that was
Yeah.
like 5 years old until about 8 years old.
Okay.
And my sisters are older than me. So I have a sister who's 6 years older than me and
Okay.
a sister who's 9 years older than me. So they were at the age where they were beginning to have their own lives and things.
Yes. Yes.
Um, so eventually, my mum and dad decided that my mum and I would go across and live with my dad in Saudi
Okay.
Arabia when it was safe to do so.
Okay.
So when the war finished, we went over, and it was really happy. It was such a happy time. It was great. It was great fun, and as an 8-year old going back to a place I'd already lived in, it was great because I
Right,
had my
right.
mum and dad, and it was a
Right. That's the best time. Yeah, you have them.
yeah. But then when I was 10 years old, my mum and dad decided that they would send me away to boarding school
In Saudi Arabia.
back in the UK.
Back in the UK, okay.
Yeah.
Wait, while they were in Saudi Arabia, they would send you back to the UK in a boarding school.
Yes.
Okay. And both of them still in Saudi Arabia while you are in
Yeah.
boarding school. Wow, that's tough. And how old were you then?
10. I was 10.
That's tough. That's tough. That's tough. Okay.
I didn't want to go, obviously. I didn't want to
For
go.
what purpose? For education? Just for better education?
They said it was for better education, but at 10 years old, all my
Yeah.
friends were still in Saudi Arabia,
Right.
and they were there until they were maybe 14. So I could have stayed longer. I could have definitely stayed longer, but that was their
Yeah.
choice to send
Yes.
me, and that
Right.
was tough. But not only
Yeah.
that, when I went to the boarding school, I was, I was sexually abused by another people when I was there, and that destroyed my world.
Wait, who were they again?
Another pupil who was there, an older girl who was there.
Oh my God.
So it
Did it
was
happen once? Did it happen a few times to the same person?
multiple times, multiple times.
I'm sorry.
And I just wanted to go home. I just
Of course. You
wanted
were
to
10
go
years
home.
old. Oh my God.
Yeah. But no matter how many times I asked my mum and dad,
Did you
they,
ever tell them
mm-mm,
what was happening to you? Why?
no.
Just curious. Like, this is just reliving the past. Why?
I think at
Did
that
somebody
point,
threaten you? Yeah.
the older girl was quite threatening.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
So I didn't want to tell anybody. So I just went into myself. And then as a result of that, I started like acting not myself. So I got a bit of an attitude I was like
Of course.
shouting and sort of like breaking
Rage,
out of
mad.
my normal
Okay.
mood swings and just being really disruptive. And eventually, the school phoned my mum and said it would be a good idea if I took a break from school. And I got in trouble for being
For
so
your
rude to
reaction to
school.
what's happening to you.
Yeah, yeah. So, and my mum and dad were furious at me, absolutely furious. And that just
Oh
made
my
me
goodness.
not want to tell them at all, at all. So just took the rage, basically.
So, Marie, the school called you. Wow, how come? Why did the school
The,
call your parents?
the school called the parents because I was being so disruptive.
Okay.
And then my mum flew back from Saudi Arabia and took me out of the school. They wouldn't give her any more details on what had happened. They
Did the
didn't know.
school knew what was going on with you? Did you ever tell anyone?
Excuse me. Well, I tried to tell people in the school,
Right.
but wasn't listened to.
You okay?
Um, and because the girl was older than me and quite threatening, I
Right.
didn't want to go any further with it also.
Okay. Right.
Um, so yeah, my mum and dad were just under the impression that I was disruptive and misbehaving. And of course, that made me close up even more. I didn't want to tell them anything at all.
Okay.
So I just stayed quiet and they were angry at me and I just let them be angry at me. I just stayed quiet.
Did you go back to Saudi Arabia, or did you and your family stay in Scotland?
No, I went back to Saudi Arabia with my mum.
Did you like that instead? Did you
I
like
loved
going
it
back?
because
Yes.
I always felt, ironically, I always
Right.
felt safe when I was there.
Right.
You know, when you're a child, you don't know the politics and everything about a country that you're living
Right.
in. But it was always a safe place for me.
How long were you in the boarding school in Scotland before your parents took you back to Saudi Arabia?
It must have been a little under a year.
Okay.
It,
All
it
right.
must have been. It was less than a full school year, I think. Um, and then we went back to Saudi Arabia, and I was fine. I was really good.
Right. Right.
You know, I kind of pushed it to the back of my mind, um, and it was okay. I was okay-ish.
Right.
Um, and then two things happened.
Okay.
They sat me down one day and told me that my sisters were not my dad's children, but my
Oh my
mum's from a
goodness.
first marriage.
Okay.
So, I mean,
And you
it's
were and you're
okay
close to your
now.
sisters, right? You're close to your sisters.
I was when I was really tiny,
Yeah.
but not as I got older. I was pretty much the boarding school that I was sent to in Scotland was only 25 miles away from my grandparents and my
Okay.
sisters,
Okay.
but my sisters never came to visit me.
Did they know that they
Yeah,
were from another? They okay. It's only you
yeah,
who found out sooner. Okay.
yeah. So that was a shock. I mean, it's
Yes.
now it's not anything to sort of grumble at. It's like, okay, so you're my half sister, but when you're that small,
Yes.
it is a big thing.
Of course.
And then a little while later, they sat me down again and told me that I was going back to another boarding school.
Which country? Which
England.
where? Okay. Which is also, and they will still stay in Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
How
Yeah.
how did you feel about that?
Awful. It was terrible. I just,
What?
all the memories came flooding back. Everything I thought it was going to happen again.
Of course.
And I was just really heartbroken.
Yes.
Heartbroken. I mean, at this point, I was, how old was I? 13.
That's still young. Marie, why did you ever, I, you know, why did you not tell them about the abuse, the sexual abuse?
I don't know. I don't
Okay.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no, I'm just like, just like asking,
It's
but wow.
it's it's one of those
If
things.
you did, how do you think would it have changed the relationship with you or the decision to send you away? Like thinking about who your parents
Possibly.
are, would it have
Possibly.
changed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, possibly. But I just felt that when the reaction I got from being taken back to Saudi Arabia after the first boarding school,
Right.
I felt it was my fault.
Right. Oh my God.
So at that point, you don't want to admit anything to
Yes.
anybody. It's
Yes.
my fault. I've done this to myself.
Right.
I'm the one that's caused this. So I'm not going to speak about it again, ever. But I just begged them not to send me, and they didn't listen. They We went anyway. I went to the boarding
So
school.
how was your experience then when you moved to again to England in that boarding school? You want to share? Like how was it then? Did it change? Is it better?
I mean, it was better. It was a better experience, but
Okay.
I was a different person.
Okay.
So
So meaning, how did you
I
show
went,
it?
I was very insular.
Okay.
I stayed away from a lot of people. I had quite a bad attitude because I
Okay.
thought if I keep everybody at arm's length,
You all right?
then nobody's going to hurt me. So I was very much a loner, very
Right.
much just sort of kept my head down. But if anybody said anything to me that I didn't like, I'd erupt.
Right. Right.
So it was, now I look back on it, it was classic like anger and
Right.
hurt, not dealing with things. But I mean, at that age, you don't deal with things really. You don't.
And how many years did you stay in boarding school? Like right until high school? Right till high school?
Well, I went in
You were 13 years
1997.
old, yeah.
Yeah, and I left school when I was 16,
Which is the end of high school,
which
correct?
is it's 2 years before the end of high school.
And you went back to
So
Saudi Arabia.
no, by that time my parents had
Had moved
moved
back to,
back
okay, all right,
to
okay.
England.
So you stayed, you had your education like from, like you didn't have to go to a boarding school. You were at home with them and still continued your
For the
education.
last year, yeah, for the last year of being in that school, I was at home.
Okay. Um, can I relate with what you're
Mhm.
saying? Because at some point, that's also the reason why I started this series is because of like we all it's sadly we all at some point experience some trauma in our life, right? Childhood
Definitely.
trauma. Like you, it's something about father too. Like you, I know how it affected him when he left working in another country, and
Mhm.
that's his norm in a lot of countries, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
because you need to survive, and if finances will come by living abroad, that's how a lot of family makeup is, right? And I
definitely.
just wanted to like reflect on like feeling of not having a father. So
Yeah.
you were 10, I was 11 when my father passed away, all right? And
Oh.
really, that loss like shattered my world.
Mhm.
I remember feeling so lost, like, a piece of me had been taken. I was only 11. Like, I didn't know what death was. Like,
Yeah,
first time I ever went into like a funeral service and like your dad is in front of you and take him away. Oh, wow, that's death. You know what I mean? Like, you're
yeah.
just really a child. And I didn't know how to process it at such a young age. Then I was 19. My brother passed away because like heart problem runs in my family.
Right.
Asthma is really bad in my family. My brother was 19 who was a doctor who would have been a
Oh,
very successful neurosurgeon. Literally died in my arms again because of heart attack and asthma. And because I was rushing him to the hospital and I saw a person turn gray and I couldn't do anything about it. The cab driver was saying, "Give him CPR, give him CPR." I don't know. I was like 18 years old. Like I didn't even
Yeah.
know what was going on. So I just wanted to share with you that like that was my time that I felt like I was a lost child. That moment changed me. The
Yeah.
weight of the trauma of just watching someone I love take their last breath left me feeling completely alone. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was trapped in a reality I didn't want to be in, and it just shaped the way I saw myself and the world at such
Yeah.
a young age, and making me feel like I had to carry pain in silence, just like you. I never
Yeah.
showed anyone pain. Like I've always, people thought of me as a strong person, but deep inside, I was in pain.
Yeah.
So,
You just keep
it's
it
just like
real.
right, and
Yeah.
sometimes don't you agree with me, Marie, that keeping pain in silence is even harder.
Very
Suppressing
much
your pain
so.
is even harder than when you're letting it out, right?
Yes. Yeah, very much so. It starts eating away at everything. Definitely.
And when there's pain and you never healed from that pain, especially you went, that's not, I'm a teacher, okay?
Okay.
For 30 years, I've been in the field of education, part admin, I own schools in the Philippines. So
Wow.
whenever I see students suffer, I'm just I go beyond past their physical feature. I
Yeah.
know, I look in their eyes and I know when they struggle. For some reason, I really connect with my students. And I hope I was there for you. I really hope I was there for you. I would have given you a hug. I would have told the principal what you were going through, because as a
Mhm.
teacher, I'm a mandated reporter. If I suspect any sign of neglect, abuse, anything like that, it's my job to call CPS.
Okay.
Okay. But I wouldn't even do that because of a job. I would do it because I genuinely love you and would have
Mhm.
cared for you. You know what I mean? And can we use this as a lesson for others who
Definitely.
might be going through the same thing, and hopefully, like, be cautious of what can happen. You say something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it definitely you must speak out. Find somebody that you can trust, that you look up to, that you feel safe with,
Right.
and say something. Definitely, because if even one person knows, you've opened the door to help.
Yes.
You've
And
opened the
things
door to
might
help.
have been different when you told your mom and dad, but then that's the past now. You had your own reasons why you didn't say it,
Yeah, yeah,
right? So
yeah,
I just hope that whoever is going through something right now, talk to an adult, talk to your
yeah,
aunt, talk to your grandma, talk to, if you don't like your homeroom teacher, talk to another teacher.
yeah.
There is going to be help.
Speak to a friend's mum or dad or anybody.
And I
Anybody.
believe that how the earlier you get help through counseling or just love, feeling loved and appreciated, that's the sooner that you'll heal from
Yeah,
whatever wound or trauma that you've experienced.
yeah, the
First of all, I
sooner
just
the
want to say I'm
better.
sorry that you had to go through there. I wish I was your teacher and I would have given you a lot of love. And but I just also want to say thank you for being here, because like that is so much things that happened in a person that really contributed to making you who you are as a person. And I just
Yeah,
want to talk about now, moving forward, right? So, Marie, finding your voice through writing is a
yeah.
powerful journey of your self discovery. Marie, what was the turning point that led you to start reclaiming your sense of self and rewriting your story?
I think the boarding school incident was the start
Okay.
of a terrible journey.
Okay.
I went from from that piece of abuse, and
Yes.
then I had a really bad attitude towards my parents because, in a way, I blamed them
Right.
for what happened to me because, in my eyes, they sent me away. They did not want me.
Yes. So that was their mistake for you, that they sent you away.
Yeah, that I blamed them. That was their
Yes.
fault.
Yes.
Um, so at the age of 16, I moved out of the house.
Wow.
Um, I had
That's pretty young. That's pretty young.
yeah,
Is that a norm
moving
in is
around.
that a norm in Scotland that they leave? Yeah, okay.
It kind of was when maybe in the early 2000s and things like
Okay.
when I did it, there was a lot of people that would just go and get their own flat and their job and
Right,
start their
right.
life.
Did
But
you
it's
have a
less
job
common
then?
now.
Were you
No,
ready to move? Okay.
no.
Okay. Wow. And I
No,
can't blame
definitely
you.
not.
Yeah.
But my sister was in Blackpool, so I moved temporarily in with my sister.
Okay. Okay.
And I found a job. I stayed with her for a while, and then she got pregnant and had a child. I
Mm-hmm.
looked after that child for her while she was at work. And then she got pregnant again, and I was like, I can't do two. I'm only, by this time, I was like 17. I was like,
Yes, that's you're still young.
I said, I can't do that. I'm sorry.
Too much. One is okay. Two is too much.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that period of time was it was quite happy, go lucky. You know, I was out.
You're a
I was
teenager.
I was getting into clubs younger than I should be and
Okay.
having a good time with friends and things like that. So that was good. And then I moved back up to Scotland to Fife and eventually I met a girl who I became friends with and then we shared a flat and we ended up back at her parents' when the flat kind of fell through and
Okay.
that wasn't great. Um, Unfortunately, she was being abused by her stepfather, I think it was, and he began to show interest in me.
So both of you went to live
Yeah,
with
yeah,
your friend at your friend's house, and
yes.
during that time, she was being sexually abused by the stepfather.
Yeah, that had
Okay.
been going on previously as well. So I don't know how long it had been
Did you
going
know
on.
that? Did she ever tell you that? Because
She did,
you did say that the stepfather was then showing interest with
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Okay.
She did tell me that, but after we had moved in, so I was quite angry.
Of course.
And yeah, then he started showing interest in me, and so I went to my grandparents' house. I phoned my parents, and we made up, and I went back home. And I thought, this is where I need to stay.
Or were you safe? I mean, did he?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
thankfully,
All right.
thankfully.
Okay.
That was a time when I thought, I can't put myself through that again. I need to get out of here
I'm
quickly.
so glad you did.
And it was basically within 2 days, I was back down with my mum and dad in England and
Okay.
back home. So I thought at that point maybe that it would be a little bit of a sort of turning point. I felt good
Right.
at that point.
Right.
Um, my dad, I worked with my dad in a care home,
Okay.
and then I started going to university to become a nurse, like my
Nice.
dad.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And then I met a boy and fell completely in love with him. Um, but things went quickly up the way, but equally as quickly down the way,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Okay. Did you have
Um,
did you have kids with him?
no, no.
Okay. Oh, you
All
were young then. You were
I was
still what, a
by this
teenager?
time I was 19.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, and I'd been struggling with endometriosis.
What is that? I'm sorry.
That
You want to share?
is a condition where the lining of your uterus gets basically it gets taken in lesions
Okay.
and goes and attaches itself to your womb, your ovaries. It can go outside of your reproductive organs as well. It can cause
Yeah.
infertility,
I was just gonna say that.
miscarriages. It's nasty. It's
Okay.
really nasty.
Was it something genetic? Was it something that you just acquired out of nowhere?
There are studies that suggest it's genetic,
Okay.
and my mum did have it.
Okay. All right.
Um,
That
so
explains a lot.
yeah, yeah. So I I had that from the age of 16. So
But you didn't know until you were
I didn't
19.
know until I was in
You said
my
19.
mid-20s
Okay. All
is when
right.
I actually got diagnosed,
Okay.
when they put a concrete diagnosis on it. But this relationship came off the back of I had a miscarriage
Okay.
when I was 18 and a half. So it was
Okay.
just before I got into university and not long before I met Nick. I call him in my book, Nick. So I'd had a miscarriage, and that was when things started being questioned because I'd had heavy periods and everything like
Okay.
that.
Right.
But yeah, Nick was great when I first met him, but then he started having angry outbursts. Um, there was sort of shady behavior. I could tell he was lying.
Right.
He
Right.
wasn't where he was supposed to be, and he'd disappear for days on end and things like this. And then that culminated months later in him throwing me up against a wall, trying to steal things from me to get money.
Oh, wow.
So that relationship ended.
Okay.
Um, and then I ran away to Crete.
Okay. Is that another place in England?
No, Crete, the Greek island.
Oh, the Greek island. The Greek
Greek
island. Okay.
island. I went away
Wow. Wow. Whew.
and tried to sort myself out.
Nice. Okay. All right. Sometimes you have to do that. Find
Yeah,
yourself. Yeah.
yeah. Um, and I came back home and I thought, great, I'm sorted, my head's clear. And then I met another guy. I'd
Okay.
met him when I was staying in Fife and we'd become friends. And friendship turned to romance.
Okay.
And then we ended up moving in together.
Okay.
And I ended up caring for his father, who was end of life liver cancer.
Okay.
And he sadly passed away. And then my boyfriend turned to drinking,
Mhm.
and drinking led to abuse.
I was just going to
And
say that.
yeah, that wasn't great.
How long were you with him? How long did you have to endure the abuse?
About 18 months.
That's long.
It's
That's
too
long.
long. It's too long. And I'd had more miscarriages by this point as well. I think I'd had another 3 at this point.
Oh my goodness.
Um, I got out of that relationship, met my first husband, and while I was with him, I had another 3
Oh
miscarriages.
my goodness.
So, and then they diagnosed me by this time. By this time, I was in my mid-20s, so I'd been diagnosed, and IVF was going to be the only way that we
Okay.
could try and
Have
conceive a
children. Yeah.
child.
Right.
So I started the pre-treatment for the IVF and ended up in hospital because it put my ovaries into hyperstimulation.
Okay. All right.
So that wasn't great. A couple of months later, I discovered I was pregnant.
Oh.
So I was so happy. I was so happy. I went for an early scan because I was on a higher care list because
Okay.
of my miscarriages. I did test after test after test,
Yes.
and I was like,
Yes.
oh my goodness. And my husband was away at this point because he was training to be a police officer.
Okay. Okay.
Um, so I was like on the phone to him, and I was on the internet looking for like cots and prams, and I was so excited. I had like a little slip of paper from the doctors that had my due date on it.
Oh.
and everything like that. And I was over the moon, over the moon. And then one day, and this is where my book starts, one day I started feeling the familiar sensations, the twinges in the stomach, the metal taste in my mouth, and I went to the toilet
You
and
lost the baby.
I lost a baby. I lost a
How
baby.
how how many months or how many days was the fetus or
It was 10 weeks. That was the
that's long.
furthest I ever got. But believe me when I say, you know it's a baby. You know it's a baby.
Yeah, because 10 weeks.
Yeah, yeah, you can tell. And that point broke me.
Of course. Of
Completely
course.
broke me.
Yes.
My
I'm so
husband wasn't
sorry.
there for me. He didn't, I mean, looking back on it now, he couldn't come back from police college. But at that point, my opinion was he didn't come back for me. I know he could
Ever.
have,
She
but
didn't come
yeah,
back when you were in the hospital or after that, or he didn't come back at all.
he didn't come back when I needed him the
You
most.
when you needed him. Okay. All right.
And that was hard. It was hard
Of
because I was on my
course.
own. I was
You
on my
needed
own.
support, emotional support.
Yeah, I couldn't get it from my parents
Mm-hmm.
because my dad by this time was disabled and needing
Okay.
24-hour care.
All right.
Um, and a couple of months after that, my husband started pressuring me to go through the IVF treatment.
Okay.
And I couldn't, that
Do
was
it
it.
again. What about surrogacy?
It's
Co-
not really, that's not really a big thing here. It's
Okay. All
not,
right.
it's
Okay.
not talked about
Okay.
very much.
Okay. That's
Oh,
good to know. That's an awareness also for us.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't, I don't know anybody who has actually done
Okay.
that.
Okay. All right.
Um,
So your husband wanted another chance.
yeah, and I said no,
No more.
no
Okay.
more. I've had enough. I've had
Okay.
enough. And at that point, I thought I need to take back some control
Yes.
for myself of my
Yes.
body, of my mental health,
Right.
of everything because I'd been to so many doctors as well, and they just said, "Oh, keep trying for a baby, you'll be fine." But you know that you're not going to be fine.
Yes.
So that was the turning point. That eighth
Of your life.
miscarriage was
Thank you.
definitely the turning point.
Thank you for sharing that. And I'm so excited to find out what's going to happen next because I know I read in your bio you have grandsons. So I can't wait for that. But before we move on to that, now let me, I did share about my childhood trauma. I spent years keeping everything inside, just like you.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you feel like I'm a strong person, even as growing up, and I felt like I had to be strong. Like breaking down wasn't an option, or maybe I was afraid to cry. You know what I mean? Who knows? At that age, it's like you don't really show yourself
Yeah.
authentically because you're young. So life continued. More loss of people I love happened. So a
Mm.
brother 3 years ago, I lost a brother, and like what I told you, I'm here in America, and all of my family members are in the Philippines, and I
Mm.
found out that my brother was passed away while I was literally teaching a class. And somebody like my whole family was FaceTiming me, like Facebook Messenger, messaging me and nonstop. So I knew like, hey, what's going on? So I had to, ask for my teaching assistant. Can you like come over first? That's when I found out he was dead. So that was tragic. I never got to spend time with my brother, and I had to like wipe the tears, go back to
Yeah.
my class, finish the class, and then when it was over, that's when I asked my principal to like, I need to take off. I need to go to the Philippines. But like, I mean, like I was crying and the kids were like, Mrs. Ruggiero, are you sad? Like, what I mean? You still need to be strong for them
Yeah.
because like you don't want to scare them. So
Exactly.
sometimes I realize, and then 2023, Mari, my husband passed away.
No.
So now I started to realize that nothing is permanent in life.
No.
I started to now realize nothing's permanent. Over time, I realized that healing starts when you allow yourself to be seen and heard now. So the death of my husband became my driving force for change. I found my voice through sharing my story, Marie.
Mm-hmm.
First, like small ways, like I would do like, let's say, a minute video and post it on Facebook. I was still scared then.
Yeah.
But now, for me, the act of speaking my truth now helped me start reclaiming who I was
Yeah.
beyond the pain. And
Yeah.
now I never really thought that me being a speaker would allow me to be a podcast host. And now I'm meeting incredible people like you from all over the world, like me, who just started this journey, 7 months ago, who was
Yeah.
afraid of like kind of speaking up. Now, like, I really found my strength in speaking. And I
Mm.
am just so proud of the guests that I feature because I've been so intentional with who I invite. Like yours was truly, I know a lot of people is gonna resonate with that because like you don't know you because you just shared, you are so vulnerable and you shared a lot of things about yourself, which a lot of people are afraid to do.
Yeah.
So there might still be in pain right now, but you speaking up, you talked about the abuse, you talked about the loss of like, that family dynamics wherein your parents are working abroad, like how
Mm.
it changed you, going to a boarding school at such a naive age. You were 10. My 10-year-old daughter is like a baby at that time, still
Yeah.
dependent on me. And then your miscarriages in life, like you had thank you for your stories, like because like I'm just glad that I have somebody here so open, not for anything but to simply tell people that there's
Yeah.
hope, you know
Definitely.
what I mean. And I don't know, like I feel I emotional whenever I hear like this series has really been so sad but meaningful as well because I've been meeting incredible people whose stories make them shine bright now, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Marie, childhood experiences really often leave deep imprints on your mindset. So, how have your past wounds or challenges influenced your beliefs maybe now, like towards what you're doing currently now, and or maybe like moving towards your path? And
Mhm.
what steps did you take to finally overcome them? Like, I want to hear about your mission in life now. Like, how did what was your mindset?
I didn't want anybody that I knew to be in a position where they felt like they didn't have anybody to turn to.
Okay.
I think that's probably where I started. And then I thought, how do I get past all this myself?
Right.
Because there was so much to get through and so many things had happened. Where do you start?
Right.
You know, and for me, starting at the beginning, that was the easiest thing.
And
So,
there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with
no,
that.
no. I mean, when I was in boarding school, I'd started writing just little poems and things just to take myself into my own little world and away from what was happening and the
Quick question. What
reality.
what were your poems about? Was it more positive or was it the pain that you had to go through? Or is
It
it
was
everything?
a lot of it was sort of like fantasy and everything's nice and rainbows and fairies and you know a sort of pre-teen
Okay.
how the world should be, how
Yes,
the
right,
world
right.
should be, basically, and just taking myself away from the reality of the situation. And then I stopped writing while I was going through my first marriage and all my miscarriages. It was just too much. Life was too much.
Right, right. You kind of need to be inspired when you're an author. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? You need
yeah.
inspiration.
And it was just for me there some mornings there wasn't even inspiration to get up, never mind to put a pen or a pencil in my hand.
Yes, yes.
um And it wasn't until I'd married my second husband that things became clearer. My mind settled a little. I felt I was in a very safe, loving environment. And then I thought I need to get all this hurt out out of me, out of the
Yes.
way. And that's when I began writing about it. And I just started from the day I was born, and I made a timeline, and I filled in the timeline, and then it became my book. And I did it in mind that I would be incredibly honest all the way throughout. I wouldn't
Wow.
miss any details out. It wouldn't be an easy read for anybody to pick up, but hopefully it will help. Even if it helps one person, but
Right,
if it helps
right.
a lot of people, that's why I did it. That's the mindset now that I go with, that if people ask you something, you give them an honest answer, and you give them an answer that you believe.
Yes.
And that is how I live now.
Tell us about your book. So is it your memoir?
It's my memoir, and
What's that? What title? What's the title?
I have it here.
Yeah, please show everyone. And yeah. Oh, wait, what is the cover? Is it's
So
you and there's you
yeah,
as a child?
that's
When
me.
you, I guess when you're 5, when you went, when your father had to leave and grow, that's you when you were
Yeah,
11, probably when you felt that abuse when you were in boarding school. And what's the other one? What's
that's
like,
teenage me.
oh my God.
And then
Did you
this is me
create
now.
the, did you illustrate that?
No, I worked with an illustrator,
That's beautiful. It's
but
like
I wanted
looking at the cover says a lot already.
it. Yeah,
I love
yeah,
it. I love it. Please make sure that you send me the link when
I
I share the
will.
podcast because I
I
want
will.
people to like, you know, find it right away. Thank you. Is it available in America?
Yeah, it's on Amazon.
It's on Amazon. Okay.
So yeah, it's on hardback and Kindle.
Okay.
But yeah, it's I have been told that it is very honest and very covers hard topics, but is very readable.
Right.
So I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that.
Well, I hope some a producer finds you, a movie production finds you.
That
Rarely
would
where
be
they'll
good.
find real emotions, like one person going through a lot of struggles in their life, and now, really rewriting their story. You know what I mean? I really, honestly, genuinely hope that somebody finds it. You know what I mean? And
I
make it
hope so.
for awareness, not just
Well, that's
for
what I hope.
right.
I mean, in our news, my local news the other day, I saw ping up on my phone. It made my heart broke, but I also felt really angry because
Right.
there was a young woman, I think she was 35, and she committed suicide because she had endometriosis and
Oh
couldn't
my
get the
gosh.
surgery that she needed to help her. And I know how she felt because I felt those things as well.
Right.
And it's
Right.
not enough people talk about it.
No.
Not enough people talk about it. I had to fight tooth and nail to get my operations. I was told for years that I couldn't decide what to do with my body, that I was too young to have a hysterectomy. I might change my mind in the future.
Why,
You
who's
know,
telling you that? The doctors
all the
in.
doctors, yeah, the doctors, and mostly men, but some of them women as well. And I'm thinking,
Well,
that's
it's
not
starting. It's
right.
starting to happen here in America as well. So
Yeah,
I know it's sad when you can't
yeah.
have control over your own self. I'm
Over your
sorry.
own body, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible.
Um,
Um, but yeah, I had years of it, absolutely years of it. So
Well, I
it's
will
heartbreaking.
definitely like when you have any. I really want to share your book with my following,
Thank you.
even after our podcast, because I see a lot of people resonating with it, not just actual thing that happened to you, but just just childhood trauma in general.
In general.
Because I know a lot of people go through things in life, and eh, like speak up. That's the only way for you to heal sometimes. Acknowledge
Absolutely.
that it happened to you. Move past it if you can, baby steps if you must.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
But at some point, you have to get that pain out of your system.
Yeah.
It took you years and you found it through writing. What a beautiful way to write. But at the same time, like, nobody has to go through that pain for that
No.
such a long time. You know what I mean? So, oh my God, like, wow. So, Marie, resilience, let's talk about resilience and personal growth. We know that those two things can help us transform pain into purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So, we talked about this already, but do you still have any other thing to add? What role did resilience, intentionality, or self reflection play in helping you reconnect with yourself?
A massive role, an
Yes.
absolutely massive role. I mean, to lose 8 babies, you have to
I
be
didn't even ask how many miscarriages. It's eight.
8. Yep.
And the oldest
Was 10 weeks.
was 10 weeks.
Yeah. And some people, I even say I say it in the first part of my book. For some people, that's not they don't class that as a baby, but you know, who are they kidding? That's a baby. Whether you're so many, I don't know, so many days or so many weeks,
Yes.
when you've had problems or not had problems with fertility, to you, that is a baby. To the mum holding that baby in her womb, it's a baby.
Right, right, right,
So
right.
the feelings associated with it,
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're right. The day old, 2 days old, 5 days old, 10 weeks old, they're still part of you.
yeah,
Like you had future planned.
feelings. Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't, I just, it's not like it disappoints me when people like put their thoughts into something that only you, person experiencing it, has the right to say
yes,
how to feel what you feel. You know what I mean?
exactly, exactly. So to go through that
Right, right.
at the same time as having abusive relationships, whilst my dad had a brain hemorrhage at his work, he was misdiagnosed by the health system. He had to have his heart restarted twice.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
And this was while he was at work. He had a brain hemorrhage while he was at
That's
work.
why he went. That's why he left Saudi Arabia and went back to.
He managed to get 5 years of work in the
Okay.
UK
Okay. In
before he
the
had his
UK.
brain
Okay.
hemorrhage.
All right.
So he had his brain hemorrhage in 2005.
Okay.
Um, and then that was him, disabled. He was 58 and
That's young.
disabled.
That's young.
Very, so young, so young. Um, so yeah, that was going on as well.
Right.
So we had a fight with the health system because it was their fault and we were
For the
fighting.
misdiagnosis. For the
Yeah.
misdiagnosis.
Yep, he would have been okay if he'd got the care when he needed it. Um, so we had a fight with them. I had a fight with the doctors to get my body sorted out. And then all the relationship trauma that was going on in the background as well. It was a constant battle to get where I needed to be or to
Okay.
get something for somebody. And at some point, you just think, what is going on? What? And something inside your mind just goes,
Is this
stop.
intentional, what's happening to
Yeah,
me? Because it's like your dad and you going
yeah,
through the same medical issues.
yeah. And yeah, at some point you just get up and it's almost as if you're in a room full of people in your
Right,
head and you
right,
stand
right.
up and you just go, enough. And that was the point. That's where my resilience kicked in, and I thought my dad is going to get the care that he needs.
Okay.
I am not being second best in a relationship. I deserve to be treated the best way that I can possibly be treated.
Yes.
And my body is my own, and I can do what I want with my body.
Wow.
And that it all just sort of came together at the one time. And I thought, I'm not going to be a victim anymore.
Okay.
I need
Okay.
to go
Yes.
from
Yes.
victimhood to taking control of my life.
Right. Right. It's about time. It's about
Yeah.
time. Um, grandsons. I want to hear about the grandsons. When did this happen?
This was my second husband.
Okay.
So he had a previous marriage as well, and he had 3 children with his previous wife.
Okay. Okay.
So
So
I
it
had
wasn't biological, unfortunately.
it was his biological, yeah.
Okay, so it's not you. Yeah, so it's like you adopted them, something like that. You were their stepmom.
Yes,
Okay, all
yes.
right. Okay, but of course, they're still your children now. You know, right?
Well, the
Yeah.
middle one,
Okay.
her name is Erin. She lives with us
Okay. Okay.
and calls me mom and everything. So
Oh.
she got pregnant before I was 40 and made me a granny.
Good. At least you get to enjoy having, you know, because you've always wanted a child. So here you are now,
Well,
like a
she was my
granny, but at
baby.
least you can get to see that baby boy grow up.
Yeah, it's
Aww.
amazing. Unfortunately for her, the dad, well, we call him the sperm donor because
Okay.
he disappeared as soon as the news broke
The
that she
sperm
was
donor.
pregnant.
Okay. What a
Um,
title, right?
I know.
The sperm donor left. I've never thought of that. Like fathers leaving their responsibility, simply a sperm donor. I love
Yeah.
that. Oh
Well,
yeah.
that
What's
is
a
what he is.
all right. So I'm just happy. You know what I mean? Like we can like children just gives brings joy in our lives, and I'm happy
Yes.
no matter how you struggled with the idea of wanting your own. Hey, God works in
Yeah.
mysterious way, or your higher being works in mysterious ways. You have your baby grandson with you. You know what
I
I mean?
know.
It's about time to spoil them.
Oh, I do.
Because
I do.
grandmothers, right?
Yeah,
Don't tell the mom. Just keep spoiling them.
definitely.
All right. Well, I'm happy for you. All right. So I wanted to recap, like now, like really talk about, because resilience is a big thing for me. Resilience became my survival tool.
Hmm.
There were days when really the weight of the loss felt too heavy, but I had to make a choice: either let it consume me or
Yeah.
use it to push forward. And I started focusing on how I could create meaning out of all the pain that I went through, how I could take my experiences, Maddie, and use them to help others. That's
Yeah.
why I'm passionate about intentionality, my podcast, what I do. And I really feel like when I choose, or when we choose to be intentional about our healing, about moving forward, we really take back control of our lives
Hmm.
instead of letting our past define us. Like what you said, it's about time that I changed the narrative. When you
Yeah.
finally said yes to your first husband about, I don't want to go through this IV thing again. When you finally said no to the doctors, and finally now you're rewriting your story. That's how we show our resilience, just moving past all these things. Yes, there's
Definitely.
going to be triggers, which I'm going to talk about soon, but still they're part of us now. How are we
Yeah.
going to move forward? Mari, healing isn't linear. and setbacks, like what we talk about now, triggers, setbacks can sometimes resurface. Now, how do you now navigate? There's so many instances that this might trigger you because you went through so much.
Yeah.
So, how do you navigate moments that remind you of the past? And maybe what strategies help you stay grounded in the present? And I know at this point, a lot of our viewers want action. Like, what can they actually do
Hmm.
when they are put in a situation like this?
When I used to walk down supermarket aisles and I
Okay.
used to walk down the baby aisle,
Mm,
I would break down. I would
yes.
I would go hide in the fruit and veg and have a cry to myself or something like that, or pretend I was reading a magazine, because it was so hard to do that. Because
Marie, some people can't get over one miscarriage. You had eight.
eight,
You
yeah,
have all the reason to feel this.
and it was hard,
Yeah.
and sometimes it still is hard, even though I have my grandson, and because his sperm donor just left, I was there from the moment she knew she was pregnant. I was there all throughout, took her to all her appointments. I was there at the birth. I had
Oh,
skin to
wow.
skin contact with him. I cut the cord. You know, I have some embarrassing photos that she never wants out in the public forum.
Oh,
And that helped me a great deal. But a
wow.
lot of people won't have that opportunity
No,
to
no.
have a situation like that happen to them where it completely turns their trauma around and flips it into something positive. Before Erin got pregnant and I was so involved with everything, I had I have my dogs. Do you know what I
Right,
mean?
right, right.
I have my dogs, I have my nieces and nephews, and then my life was getting so busy with looking after my parents and trying to get some writing that I didn't have time to think about things. I kept myself busy. And things about boarding school still trigger me. If there's things on the television, I'm still triggered by that. I still have to navigate that in a way that it doesn't cause me a setback,
Right, right.
because it was that was the first thing that ever happened to me, and it was so traumatic, and I was so alone that I'll probably never get over that.
Right, right.
But you learn when you've hit the mark that you're so fed up of everything happening to you that you use your resilience to turn it around.
Yes.
Something inside of you files things away in little boxes in your head.
Right,
You
right.
can lock them. You learn to lock them so they don't open and they don't affect you anymore. And you learn to focus on the positive things.
Okay.
And the negative things, they don't always go away, but you learn how to manage them in a way that doesn't affect you as much. Whether that's with, sometimes it might be with medication,
Right,
sometimes it might be with going to a counseling group,
right,
you
right,
know, outreach to your friends, your family, anything like that. However you can find a way to cope with it,
right.
cope
I
with
love
it.
that. I love that.
Cross
Um,
stitch. I did cross stitch. If I'm feeling quite frustrated and things have been a bit busy and my head's a bit muddled, I'll sit and I'll do some cross stitch for a couple
right,
of hours, and it just calms the mind, kind of thing. Take your
right,
mind off
right.
things.
I love that. I love that. And first of all, you are so lucky to have a wonderful relationship with your, wait, how do you call that?
Stepdaughter.
Daughter-in-law. That's
Yeah,
rare. That's rare.
very.
I'm just glad that you have each other with the grandson and
Yeah.
everything. You know what I mean? Like I can imagine, like I can picture a family, like just so happy, like with like a little boy there.
Yeah. Yeah. He's
um,
busy. He's so
yeah,
busy.
I'm just happy for how it turned out to you, like life turned out to you. Let me talk about my way of looking at resilience, and then later I really want you to talk about your book more. Like, what will the readers get? Like,
Mm-hmm.
add more if you want. Um, Marie, so for me, um, grief for me doesn't just disappear. This is like, I just want to share my thoughts about that. For me, I had to find ways to honor my past without letting it pull me under.
Mm-hmm.
I had to, I did journaling, has been a huge part of that. And sometimes just allowing myself to feel the emotions instead of pushing them away helps me process them instead of being stuck. Like my dad, like I was 11, that I would have, after 10 years, all of a sudden I would have cry attacks for no reason. Like, I just
Yes.
find myself crying. No, there's not even a trigger. I just cry, and people call it cry attacks. So cry. Like, I sob like a baby when I cry, because like
Mm-hmm.
I just remember my brother. Like, right now I can picture exactly what happened. And you know what? Feel it, grieve it, cry about it, because it's
Definitely.
going to feel good. And but don't let it define you.
No.
Use those experiences to, like, just make you better, right? So, Marie, many people struggle to break free from the past and step into a more empowered version of themselves. And I think your empowerment really is your book. So,
Definitely.
is there any advice that you would give to someone who feels stuck and unsure of how to move forward? Or maybe, what is like one thing they will learn from your book? Like, any advice?
I think before I started writing my book,
Okay.
and I'd always thought about writing about my story, but
Okay.
I didn't know where to start. And I was so sort of grief stricken and going through that process of not yet healing, still trying to get the anger out. I think the first thing I'd say to people is, if you've got an opportunity to go to a really deserted hill somewhere where nobody hears you and just stand and scream and
Scream.
shout at the world,
Yes.
that works so well. I
Yes.
have to tell you.
Is that what you did when you went to the Greek island?
I have stood on a hill in Crete and screamed my lungs out. And I've done it in a few places in Scotland as well.
Oh my! Or just get a pillow and just like, ah.
honestly, honestly, sometimes that works so well.
Oh, sometimes I cry like a baby until now.
Yeah.
Don't laugh. I just cry, and it makes me feel so good.
When you cry so much here, we call it ugly crying.
Ah,
Like
okay.
you're
So I
really
do ugly
ugly
crying.
crying. And yeah, it works as well. It
Yes.
completely works. But for me,
Just
my
think
main
about,
thing,
like, getting out, like, whatever you have inside, and it
yeah,
just taking it out of your system, whatever way.
definitely,
Right. Right.
definitely, because it's not always healthy to have another person on the end of what you need to get out of your system. Somebody else sometimes doesn't or shouldn't deal with that. Sometimes you just need to have a big, massive scream or hit a punch bag or something, and you just need to get all of that negative energy out of your
Or your
system.
husband, or your boyfriend. It's a dual purpose. Like, you're mad at them at that night, and you're just letting it know. Oh, that's a good advice.
But for me, the
Yeah,
main thing
that was
was
just a
my
joke.
my writing.
Don't take me
It's
seriously. Hey,
nice.
I might get canceled here. I'm just joking.
Nobody cancel this.
Do not cancel me.
But yeah, aside from getting the husband and yep, doing that.
Don't say it anymore. You're gonna get me in trouble. Just joking. All right.
I found that the writing was the best thing that I did.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time away from the family to do it
Yeah.
because I had to relive every single moment
Right.
whilst I was writing it. But it's probably the best thing I have ever done for my mental health ever.
Yes.
And if it helps just one person,
Yes.
I'll be so glad. If it helps more, fine. But I think people taken away from reading the book, they will find a very honest, raw account
Yes.
of multiple traumas, but they will also find hope on the other side of everything.
Oh,
Hope,
you make me cry. Oh my God.
resilience, and a way to move yourself into a more positive light and be able to rise up. I mean, I have got, I'm going to show you my arm. I got a phoenix tattoo on my
Okay.
arm when I was
Wow.
writing my book, and it
A
goes into a
rising
little.
phoenix. You're a rising phoenix.
That's what it feels like. It feels like you rise up, and
Above everything.
you're so much better for
Love that.
having been turned into ashes. You just come back to life again, you know.
Right.
So I think people will be able to relate because there is so much women's trauma in there. There
Right.
is so much family drama
Right.
and,
Right.
relationship stuff. So people will be able to relate to it because I'm not anything special. I'm just a normal woman from a
I
little
say the
town
same
in
thing. Yeah.
Scotland.
I say the same thing.
And
Yeah.
it happens to us normal people every single day, and nobody turns a blind eye. We're like little ants. Nobody sees us. So if somebody can read this and feel like they're not alone, that's probably the best thing ever.
You know what your power is now, Marie? Your story.
I hope
You have a big role now in this world to share your story. And I'm glad I'm one of them who has this privilege to share you and your book to
Thank you.
everybody. Can I ask you a favor?
Hmm.
Do you mind get the most vulnerable part of your story, videotape yourself and share it? I would love to share that. That you know what I
Okay.
mean? Like I would love that. I
Okay.
would I would make it let's make it let's put it on a reel and put the link because like rarely will people find a book with like what you said raw emotions. You said it was really real and
Mhm.
sometimes they need a little snippet of what it is about and I would love to share again, to share your story because you had so
Okay.
much things that happened to you that you can gain power from it. No more turning back. No more turning
No,
back.
no.
Yes, you might, there's trigger, you can cry, get your, again, the punching husband. But in the end, no more.
No.
Reclaim your power.
Yeah,
Reclaim your
definitely.
power.
I will do that.
So,
I might ugly cry on tape though.
oh, I'm ugly when I cry. I literally like I feel like a baby when and it still happens at this age.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. For what am I? 41 and I can
I
still
know.
ugly cry.
Yeah. Oh, ugly cry. I like that. That's something British or like UK thing. Ugly cry. All
Yeah,
right. So
definitely.
my advice, based on our conversations, to anyone who feels stuck, I want you to know you are not alone.
Mm.
I know what it's like to carry pain that feels unbearable. Marie, experiences I did, and it, and to wonder if you'll ever feel whole again. You will, and know that you are stronger than you think, and that healing doesn't happen all at once, and you don't have to be all you don't have to have all the answers today. Just take one step because even the smallest step forward is still forward. And again, so many advice because there's so many stories that Marie had to go through in life. Speak up. What else? Don't let your past define you, and just spread awareness. You know what I mean? Nowadays, spread awareness, right?
Definitely.
So, Marie, this conversation really has been so powerful before we wrap up, how can the viewers find you? I know you have the book, but do you have any other thing that you would like to share or promote? Like maybe a Facebook page, your social media, your website. Feel free now to like invite them.
You will find me on Facebook, Mhairi Blyth. It's a black and white photo of me, delightful. And Instagram, Threads, X, it's M Blythe Writer,
Okay.
and that's me.
And I will have all the links to all her social media presence and the link to her book when I share this podcast.
You?
Maria, I just want to like last time. Do you have anything to say? Do you have anything before we I end this I end this podcast?
I think you have been amazing. Thank you
Oh,
so much.
you too.
Someone so understanding, someone who has shared trauma, can understand where I'm coming from, and I understand where you're coming from. And yeah, I think read my book, get some help, don't stay silent, and live for who you are, not for who anybody else wants you to be. Live who
Love that.
for who you want to be.
Yes. Love that. Love that. Love that. Love that. And you as well has been a pleasure. I intentionally had to pick everybody who I only am choosing 10 guests. And so far, I am in awe. Really. Like, I'm so proud of this series because most of the guests have been so genuine,
I'm
vulnerable,
so
and
glad.
open. And this is
Yeah,
what life is all about. Share,
definitely,
share,
definitely.
share, share. And thank you for trusting me with your story, Mari.
Thank you for
And
listening.
sorry if I butchered your name, Mari.
It's okay. My
It's
parents did
beautiful.
it to me.
Beautiful. All right. And thank you so much again for sharing your journey with us today. And
Thank
to our
you.
viewers and listeners, thank you for being here and for holding space for these important conversations. This episode marks a special part of The Lost Child, Finding Yourself Beyond the Past series. And if this conversation resonated with you, connect with Marie, connect with me. My website is candiceruggiero.com, and I'm all over social media. Find me on linktree/Candice Ruggiero. Remember, always remember, you are not defined by your past. You have the power to step forward, to heal, and to create the life that you deserve. Um, Again, I want to thank you, Marie, for being here with us today. And I hope this is not the end. Let's connect. Let's
Yeah.
help each other, help others heal. And hopefully they find their own path and their own journey. Until the next time, remember excellence isn't accidental, it's intentional. Choose to heal, choose to grow, and choose to move forward. Marie, have a good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. And to my audience, thank you for all your support. Thank you, Marie.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.